Well, not wasting much of our time, let's go straight to the first segment on the show where we take you through the newspaper headlines. And starting with the Punch this morning, says interim government, parties back military as DHQ, diverse headquarters. Yes, rubbishes plot says calls are illegal. That's on page 8 of the Punch for today. Pardon me, page 2 of the Punch newspaper for this morning. Yes, I think the military is saying the plot is illegal and parties seem to support that position. INEC has announced President-elect interim government can stand. That is coming from the defense headquarters, and it warns call for interim government a coup, treasonable, unpatriotic, says APC, PDP, and PP. The military cannot interpret constitution, says LP, tells defense headquarters to avoid politics. Well, details of that story, as I said, you find on page 2 of the Punch newspaper for this morning. Reps probed alleged 20 billion naira diversion by NNPCL officials. Check the details of that story too on page 10 of the Punch newspaper. The sacked LP chair blames APC as police occupy secretariat. Where did that happen? Check page 12 of the Punch newspaper for this morning. And also on the Punch newspaper, killer headsman raid Benue community, keep policemen. And 45 orders. That's the sad one. Find details of that on page 3 of the Punch newspaper as well. And also on the Punch newspaper you find a picture there, yes, of decoration of the IG decorates newly promoted the IG, AIGs and others. And that's on the Punch newspaper for this morning side.
Of course, from the Punch newspaper, let's head straight to what the nation has this morning for us. The bold one, taking a lead in the front page of the nation, is about the 2023 general election. It reads, why Tinubu was elected by US-based observer mission. NDI IRI leader Carson speaks on poll at meeting with minister in Washington, D.C. Why Tinubu was elected by US-based observer mission. You want to know why the candidate, now president-elect, got about 8 million votes in the last presidential election? Perhaps we'll take a look at that story and get the perspective of the US-based observer mission who was speaking from the Nation newspaper this morning. Away from that, you also see picture in the front page of the Nation, young men turning their backs to the camera. Of course, it's about the arrest made by the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. It says some of the 32 internet fraud suspects during the parade by the EFCC in Owerri, Imo State yesterday. Some of the 33, or some of the over 30 persons were arrested for suspicion of internet fraud. Away from that story, no easy electoral victory again, Buhari tells politicians. That's coming from the president. Says President Muhammadu Buhari, reflecting on the outcome of the general election, says as it stands, politicians must realize that no easy electoral victory for them again. And that's part of what he also cited was the fact that about 10 governors who were seeking another road to the National Assembly, that's the Senate, couldn't get through. So that tells you that the people are making their choices. We'll see how that will also affect the elections or the conduct going forward, the conduct of political actors in this case going forward. Mischief makers plotting interim government, says THQ. Rivers APC suspends Meiji. You also find this one. Attacks. Mogaholu defends Shoyinka. I guess that's on the back of the statement made by the Nobel laureate, also receiving some form of backlash on the internet, particularly on Twitter. Of course, Kingsley Moghalu, former deputy governor of the central bank, also trying to provide clarity on what Professor Wole Soyinka was, trying to say or was saying in the real sense of it. But guess what? They say he's also getting his own backlash at this time. But we'll see how that will also go. Macron seeks China's action to end Russia-Ukraine war. Macron seeks China's action to end Russia-Ukraine war. That's President of France. Leadership crisis tears Labour Party apart. Aburi, Apapa, lay claim. That's on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. Obasanjo urges incoming government to begin healing reconciliation. That's on page 3. You also find this one. Pressure on me to go into self-exile. Obi alleges. Find those stories when you pick a copy of the Nation newspaper for today, the 7th of April.
And on this day newspaper for this morning, for this day, okay, it says Buhari, no more easy route to power than electorate. That's coming from the president. It says happy voters rejected 10 governors bid to Senate. Says 2023 polls result has changed nation's political landscape. When it expresses disbelief, politics will be difficult, is fought. Then declares democracy as best system in Africa despite military incursion. And last it says bids Angola, UAE envoys farewell. That's Buhari, on the this day newspaper for this morning. It's right there on the front page. You can get the details to that. Also, Obasanjo, next government must strive to end nation's ethnic division. Well, that's coming from the former president of Nigeria. Says believes such moves may heal and assuaged courage and encourage Nigerian. He says he's too old to keep quiet. Has his letter. Sorry, I think it's not so clear. Okay, so he's too old to keep quiet, and he feels he has obligations to tell the truth to Nigeria. You can also see that on the front page of this day newspaper for this morning. And World Bank, Nigeria's growth recovery still fragile as oil production remains subdued. Well, it says 22 African countries at high risk of external debt crisis. Then it also says, I think saying something else here. Okay, prescribes debt reduction, domestic revenue mobilization strategies. That's coming from World Bank. That you also find on the Nation, on this day newspaper for this morning.
Let's check the Guardian newspaper and see where that daily is guiding us towards. And it appears it's in the sports sector this morning, as the front page of the Guardian is laced with a picture of the National Stadium. Yes, it's captioned this way: National Stadium of Shame, filth. 31 months after $1 million facelift. That's the big story from the Guardian newspaper on pages 4 and 5. And you see the picture of the National Stadium, the grasses, where the spectators are also expected to seat the scoreboard, for those who are handling that contract, and some other things right there in the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And you look at this,
Just
this
31 months.
ugly picture, ugly situation staring us in the face. It's the National Stadium.
The National Stadium, just 31 months after $1 million, has been spent on it. And you wonder what happened to our maintenance culture in the country. Currently, I think it's undergoing massive renovation.
What also happens to the quality of work done? Those are some of the issues. When quality is not assured, definitely
quality is compromised.
Maintaining, what is not quality could be, somewhat of an Herculean task, as it were, because it's just waiting to go bad. Other headlines in the Guardian News this morning: Obasanjo says 2023 polls shameful, urges next government to end ethnic division. You find that also in the Guardian. Labour unmoved, says FG wants to cash in on $800 million palliatives. That's the Labour Union, you say. It's the back and forth on the issue of fuel subsidy. The current administration says it will remove subsidy before it leaves office.
And the incoming one too is promising to do the same. Because during his campaigns, they said, no matter how much you cry or go on strike, I will remove fuel subsidy. So it seems that's where the nation is heading.
Of course, it also requires that every party, be at that table to discuss how this will play out in terms of the attendant effect on Nigerians. How well the government will also utilize this $800 million palliatives is perhaps what the Labour is also interested in at this time. But we'll see how that conversation will go, if this government will surely, as it said, remove subsidy, or perhaps just wait until
just look at it. The palliative, is it going to be a one-off thing, or is it going to be a continual thing? You want to remove subsidy, which is fuel consumption is something that we do, every time, all the time, It's something that will continue to be a part of our lives.
Definitely, and those are matters of details, in terms of how it will be shared. This is a matter of details, and we hope that Nigerians will get those details to see truly how transparent the process is. Questions: over 12 billion naira airport fire trucks. What questions are rising from this purchase? Check the Guardian newspapers for that story. NNPCL aims at $40.8 billion gas pipeline amid push by Europe. Confusion as Labour Party headquarters witnesses siege. National Working Committee replaces Abure as chairman. You find that development from the camp of the Labour Party right there in the Guardian newspaper for you this morning.
Okay. And on the Daily Sun for this morning, bloody day in Lagos, Edo, Benue, and others. Why is that so? So gunmen killed 3 policemen, 49 others, scores injured, cut away weapons, other probably in all the states. Well, check details of that on page 4 of the Daily Sun for this morning. And also, military rejects interim government, describes it as mischievous and unconstitutional. Details of that you find on page 6 of the Daily Sun for this morning. Troops eliminate 53 terrorists, rescue 118 victims, destroys 50 illegal refining sites in Delta. The details of that you find on page 4 of the Daily Sun for this morning as well. We supported Southern Presidency for Unity of Nigeria. That's coming from Wike and El-Rufai. Why did they do so? Details of that is on page 26 of the Daily Sun. And still talking, Ohaneze to petition Buhari and National Assembly over profiling of Igbo in Lagos. Well, the Igbos in Lagos, the talk has been on and on since preparation for the election, and that post-election we're still having that discussion going. You find details of that on page 28 of the Daily Sun. Writer to that story says, sets up emergency line to report victimization. And then 10th National Assembly, Diaspora APC endorses Kalu for Senate President. Well, details of that is on page 27. And just look for the National Assembly principal seats are still on, and people are lobbying, and all factors being considered. Let's keep our fingers crossed to see how everything goes. But this time, APC in diaspora are calling for Kalu as the Senate President. What is their reason? Go to page 27 of the Daily Sun for this morning. It's still on Obasanjo. Obasanjo recommends national reconciliation. It says country divided than ever before. Insists elections is a show of shame. We'll find that on page 6 of the Daily Sun as well.
From the Daily Sun newspaper, let's check the Vanguard this morning, and just below the nameplate of the Vanguard this morning, you find the bold headline, Labour, NECA, NYSCN rejects subsidy removal, palliatives. We are no party to palliative talks by FG. We insist on local refining. That's according to NLC. And of course, TUC rejects $800 million palliative, says FG on its own. NECA is also saying something. NECA faults $800 million palliatives, insists on fixing local refineries, while northern youths threaten mass action, says palliatives will be looted by government officials. That's a bold one from the from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. You also find pictures of the NLC president, NECA DG, and the TUC president following that particular headline. Away from that, above the nameplate, Labour Party's crisis worsen as faction invades National Secretariat. 2023 Nigeria's political climate. That's according to the president, Buhari. Peter Obi has no plan to leave Nigeria despite pressures. LPPCC. You also see this one. Interest rate. Pension fund investments in FG securities up 16.5% to 9.9 trillion naira. Away from that one, flight cancellation loom as FAN denies oil marketers access to airports. Success in the fight against insecurity. Troops neutralize 45 terrorists, rescue 118 kidnapped victims. Sadly, here also you find the story. Gunmen kill 3 policemen, injure 1 in Edo. Super Eagles drop, Argentina rise to the top. One's loss is another's gain, so you say. Interim government unconstitutional, that's according to the military. Why out of school children rate persist? That's coming from Buhari's aide, Uwais. You check that story from the Vanguard newspaper. Mr. and Mrs. is also here for you this morning, particularly at a time when the conversation about paternity and maternity leave is also trending in Nigeria. Remember that, particularly here in Ondo State, they say, women can now have access to 6 months.
6 months, yeah. We go for 6 months, for instance.
So the father, if you have a newborn, you can get 2 weeks for paternity leave, at least to help around. But Mr. and Mrs. is here, says, don't touch my newborn baby. You men don't know what it is like to be in labor during childbirth. And the husband replies, is responding to this. He says, "That's not fair. I was also in labor when making the baby." So that's it for you. It takes two to do what?
What?
To tango, or what they say. Those are the signs in the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Alright, and to the Daily Trust for this morning, body written there, exports flay FG's 800 million palliatives. Right, as that story says, amount just 6% of 6 trillion naira annual subsidy. Then it will be 2,000 one-off support per citizen. Just as I said, that was it going to be a one-off thing or a continue? Then no lesson learnt from 16 billion naira wasted on Shopee in 2012. We're good at learning nothing from history. Anyway, details of that story please find on the Daily Sun for today, page 4. Yes, you find details of that story concerning the $800 million palliative, and you can also do the mathematics, the amount that we get to you as a citizen. Well, let's look at this also. 10th National Assembly, APC governors give yardstick for choosing principal officers. Where is it the concern of the governors now? Well, find details of that. Why are they interested? Find it on page 10 of the Daily Trust for this morning. And then says this one, airlines cancel flights as fan oil marketers clash in Abuja. Details of that is on page 19 of the Daily Trust for this morning as well. And many mourners killed in fresh attack on Benue community. That's quite unfortunate, and we pray that their soul be rest in peace. That's all for the nation this morning. The Daily Trust.
Let's check the New Telegraph quickly this morning. Nigeria under threats of undemocratic forces. That's coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Says ugly occurrences during 2023 polls show nation now more divided, corroded. Of course, it's a season to also heal, just like it says, reconciliation going forward. Polls, loss of governor's bid for Senate means no more easy route to power. And that's coming from the president. Lagos PDP campaign funds. Police arrest, release Dosumu. You'll find that one there. Doherty, others to appear before SFU next week. You find some other writers to that story also from the New Telegraph newspaper. You also see this one. Gunmen kill 4 policemen, 48 others in Benue, Lagos, Edo. Insecurity, NAF floats operational base in Ekiti. That's the Nigeria Air Force floating an operational base in Ekiti. We also hope that will also help strengthen security in that area, looking at the fact that Ekiti is just some minutes away from here. Counter funding request. Reps alt release of 15 billion naira by NDDC. Says 750 million naira debt. Judge winds up eyeing Osigwe Group. You check that story. Enugu APC expels Chime Okechukwu Odo. Cites anti-party activities. Suspends Onyema, Nnamani. Others find there's a season of suspension after the election at this time. But the study in the New Telegraph, just like you have it every morning, is this one is about the effect of snoring. It says loud snoring rumblings linked to brain damage. That's according to a study. Loud snoring rumblings linked to brain damage. Do you snore?
I think that's a note of warning to people that snore.
No, you can check the studies right there for you in the New Telegraph. You find that on page 8 of the paper this morning.
Alright, and from the New Telegraph, let's go to Daily Independent for this morning. It says, Nigeria more divided now, needs national reconciliation. That's coming from Obasanjo. Says it's too old to keep quiet, overwrought in the country. Alleges Nigeria's leaders spend money like drunken sailor. Well, details of that please find on Daily Independent. And also on Daily Independent, reps to probe NNPC over payment of 20 billion naira to ghost consultants. That detail is on page 7 of the Daily Independent. Airlines cancel, delay flights as fan oil marketers beacon. That's also on page 7. Yes, the page 7 is loaded with lots of headlines this morning. Then APC expels ex-governor Chimi, VON, Director Generals, and others. That's on page 7 of the Daily Independent as well. It says suspends Foreign Affairs Minister Onyema, ex-Senate President Ken Nnamani. Nigeria to build infrastructure for gas delivery to Europe. That's on page 6 of the Daily Independent this morning.
Let's check the Nigerian Tribune for you this morning to take stories that perhaps have not appeared in other front pages that we've had for you this morning. 10th Senate presidency. Race odds up as dark horses emerge. That's a race for the who gets what in the National Assembly, particularly at the red chambers. But at the green chamber, it's also the same thing. Wase, Aliyu, Lalu, Abbas, 2 others in battle for speakership. Who gets it? Let's see how that will also go. But the Nigerian Tribune has a story link here in Ondo State. It says Ondo varsity students stabbed to death over 1,000 naira. Students set suspected killer's house ablaze. You find that story in the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
So unfortunate that, but I guess people need to be more patient with others. Well, also this morning, I think that's all will be taken for the newspaper.